Oh my goodness. Seriously, I have to just do it. It's like I can tell myself I don't have to think about things that don't matter.
I was designed to do those things. How the hell does this guy know this about me?
It's impossible to not see.
When Dan read for my sister, she was like, he's psychic. She's like, how did you know that?
Yes.
She's like, it's human design, guys. Like, it's just a testimony of how legit it is.
Seriously, Danny was like FBI or CIA. He's like, how the hell does this guy know this about me?
Having my chart read, there were just thing after thing after thing that I was just like, wow, that's me.
This man is reading me and I've never met him before.
I was in the midst of one of the biggest emotional waves I've ever been in my life, and he saved my life.
It seems like everybody has the same reaction. It's that aha moment, and they want to find out more. Welcome back to another episode of the Human Design Advantage. My name is Jen, and decoding the matrix for us is Dan. Hey, Dan.
Jen, how are you?
I'm fantastic today. How are you?
I'm good. We're gonna enlighten the world on what a family dynamic is and how human design does this. What's that magic inside our children?
Yes, and I'm looking forward to diving in today's episode. But before we get started, guys, you know what to do. Please make sure to like, subscribe, and follow to the channel. Thank you, everybody who has been chiming in and watching. We are noticing behind the scenes and truly honored to have you share our show out. So
Special shout out to Jacob Kidd. That's Savannah's husband. And so if he chimes in with a comment, that's dad. So we got to pick it up. That's my boy. That's my bro.
I will definitely bring your attention when Jacob and Savannah are not on just yet. We don't have any viewers, but
No, well, I go through a little bit what we're going to talk about, and a special something to notice about Jacob. Everyone, when I first read for them, has their moments. Jacob is one of the few that actually went from 0 to 100 on the first call, as in he literally went from having not only no idea, but no real mystical background like you do or I did, to waking up on the first call. He went from not knowing to holy cow, and everything turned around that day. I just don't see that very often.
Really?
Yeah.
So he
projectors,
understood
for
it.
whatever reason, projectors seem to have the ability to shatter the conditioning. The conditioning's still there, but they shatter through. You know how you and I struggled? It's like, wait a minute. We're pulling out.
It took me a year. Like, even when you me being a manifestor and you brought out the anger, I rejected it at first because in that time I had done so much. Well, I had to go through anger management. I had done so much. I was like, where is he getting this anger information? Where is it coming from? And yeah, when I started to recognize it in myself, I was like, yep, there it is.
Right. Oop, there it is. Yeah, you should see my struggle. It was the whole first year. Yeah, I was like, nah, no, maybe. Okay, a little bit, but what do you mean? You know, I was like a typical kid who got caught in school and tried to deny everything, you know. Nuh-uh, that wasn't me.
Yeah.
But it was that struggle that then made the strength, you know. So, I mean, everything's good. It's just that projectors, because their way is to recognize things, in their recognition, they can shatter that glass ceiling from one moment to the next. They still have to do all the work. It's not easy. Nothing's easy afterwards at first, you know.
No.
But they can shatter that first moment. We call it a shattering. Ross speaks about it specifically, actually.
So is that typical, like with your experience and all the readings that you have done, you've seen that primarily with projectors?
Yep. And I don't see it very often at all.
Interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Anybody can shatter that glass ceiling, anybody, but projectors with their recognition way, they seem to get to it first, you know, or they seem to have a natural proclivity to do that. So it's quite a thing. So that's my boy Jacob. He asked a question last week and then he texted me, hey, what happened? And I was like, bro, dude, I'll tell Jennifer. you know, because I'm mostly outnumbered by females. I read far more women than I do men. And so when a dude shows up, I'm like, no, dude, you're my friend forever and ever. And well, you know, it's just funny. And it was great. So, love you, Jacob.
If he chimed in, Jacob, if you chimed in and I missed it, I do apologize.
No, it's all good. It's just we were busy last week. But anyway, so this week what we're gonna do is so we have charts of 4 children and 2 projector parents raising 4 manifestor children, most of whom are emotional, as I recall. Emotional. I'm looking through these now. And so what we're going to do is just what the title of the show said. Oh yeah, they're all emotional, all right.
Human design for kids and what makes them special.
Yep, absolutely. And so one of them isn't emotionally defined, and that's it. Rushton. So Savannah last night was just referring to how she feels under emotional siege sometimes. And she's got this wave, all the different waves going through her all the time, and it's not always comfortable. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. But mostly what we're going to talk about is just the practicality of simply knowing your child's type and their profile and a few surface things that are in their design. It's all, this is what we're after. We're after parents recognizing, oh my God, I can hop on this with my kid right now. And if I don't feel like doing all the work myself, maybe I can at least recognize it in my children and start there. A person's love for themselves is pretty cool, but we all know that we have our own hang-ups about loving ourselves. And do we really? And then do I want to do all the work? Am I in the mood? And do I feel like, you know, they don't know if they feel like it, but their love for their children is something else. Mm-hmm. It tends to transcend a lot of those limitations and barriers. And so I figure if it's hard to get through to an adult, you know, which sometimes it is, it won't be so hard to get through to them as it relates to their children. They'll see it. They'll see it and be empowered to be like, oh my God, I have a generator kid. I need to learn how to ask questions that have a yes, no slant to it and I need to learn how to get good at that. Savannah has a special success story on that one. She took her emotional child from just on 10 freaking out into like totally not that, simply through asking 3 questions. Mm-hmm. It was striking. She saw it.
Yeah, I think we touched on that last week.
We did. And so that's what made me think, hey, let's go through all the kid family kids.
Yeah, Savannah's on, so I'm going to go ahead and pop her on screen. Hey, Savannah.
Hey, you. Oh, you're on mute.
Sorry. I had to unmute it. I didn't touch it. Hey, how are you guys?
We're great, man. Can't wait to do this.
Yeah, me too. I'm excited to go through the profiles and kids and like how to support them and understand them. So I'm excited for this.
Yeah, let's pick our first one. Which one do you want to go to first?
Well, I was because we were talking about profiles, and my daughter is a 2-4, right? So the 2 is the hermit, and then the 4 is they want to community and friendship is like a big deal to them. And also you mentioned how 4s, they can become you said the abdicator, right? So like the peacemaker. Sometimes they can get kind of like become a doormat to some of their friends and things like that. And I've totally seen that play out with my daughter Colette. She's just so nice and friendly and cares, you know, she doesn't want to hurt anyone's feelings. And so sometimes people can take advantage of her, like her friends, and not be so nice to her. And she's also a little vessel of love, like that's her carnation cross, like you, Dan. So she's just this sweet little thing. I mean, she does have an emotional wave, and she does have that emoting channel and provoking channel. So she does have moments where she can be provoking. I don't know. I was just wondering what your advice would be on that.
Let's talk about just profile for a second. Let's talk about what profile means to the child. Jennifer, I think we're on Rush. Yeah.
Yeah, I accidentally hit it. There we go. Sorry.
Yep. Colette. So profile, top right of this screen, you see profile 2-4. What profile tells us is it tells us their roles in interaction in the world. There's 4 main roles. There's really 6 main roles and a total of 8 themes, but we're going to deal with the ones that are easy to spot. So each line has 4 separate things as it relates to their behavior. So a second line will have a behavior. It's the hermit. They sidestep behavioral requirements of others by being alone, by isolating, by literally walking away. So Coco is able to ignore her mother by walking away and basically pretending she didn't hear it because she didn't feel like it. Yeah. So what are you saying? Maybe, that's Coco. She literally just will go away. And in that, she's safe. The title for a second line's behavior is literally successful sidestepping of mom's behavioral requirements through isolation, not just sidestepping, successfully sidestepping. So it will also tell us their role in interaction with the other. The second line is the Democrat. It will tell us that they want to basically put all the pieces together and make sure everyone's getting that a democratic process is unfolding. In other words, if someone's disadvantaged too much, Coco's going to want to sort of stand up for that. And hey, it's a democratic process. We can't leave anyone out. Yeah. Not to be confused with left-leaning Democrats. Okay, just it's the old version of the word, not what it seems to have become now.
Do we have another word that we could use?
Well, I mean, that's the keynote for it.
Fairness. Would you say the second line is all about fairness and making sure everyone's kind of taken care of? Would you say that in the way?
And if the democratic process leaves one person out, it's still democratic. So it's not always just fairness. It's democracy. It's the classic version of what democracy would be. It's the Democrat that wants to be democratic about stuff. Hey, I don't care what color the house is. Everyone wants it blue. Okay, blue it is because of the consensus. Consensus, looking to build a consensus, always looking to share and build a consensus. Their role in openness to the other, one is their role in interaction, the Democrat. So that's how they lead with others. In their leadership capacity, they are the Democrat. It doesn't mean they can't, have authority. It just means they tend to be democratic about that. But in their openness, as they're listening to the other, their role in that becomes something we call bigotry, meaning not bigotry as it relates to the skin color, anything that we would see on mainstream news. It's just in the moment as it relates to what that person is saying. As soon as Coco is done listening to her mother, she tunes out. She literally, if you go on 2 sentences further, she has bigoted what you were saying. Sorry, I totally was listening to you a moment ago, but nope, bigotry came in, and I am now. If we want to pick a new word for that, we can too, but because it sounds bad, but it's not. It's just I've stopped listening. My role and my openness to you has a limitation, and as soon as I'm not into it anymore, that's the limitation. Sorry, So, and that's all of these things speak to the second line hermit. How can the second line successfully sidestep stuff if they don't literally put aside and bigot what the other person is saying, what they're doing, what they want them to do? They have to literally turn it off. So I loved you up until sentences 3, 4, and 5, but at sentences 6, 7, and 8, I don't. It's not coming through the same way. I don't love you as much. Essentially, I'm going to hermit myself. I bigot what you are saying, but I'm democratic about all that. If that's what you want, Mom, go for it. But I'm successfully sidestepping you now through isolation.
So is it almost like they can be kind of closed off to what you're sharing if it doesn't resonate with them? Like, so they're like, okay, I've had enough. See you later. But then they also still care about like democracy and making sure like.
Absolutely. So think about it, Savannah. If it suddenly comes back that something's real important and now there's something democratically is just totally lopsided and unfair, the bigot will unbigot themselves, start listening again, and seek harmony amongst the troops. And they will come out of their hermit cave for a moment to say, no, that's not fair. That's not how that was. because they're the Democrat and all of that. And their creative role, their aspire to role, what they aspire for, what helps their creativity come out. Again, so 4 roles: behavior, interaction with others, openness to others, and then their creativity, how their creative aspects come out. They come out when there is harmony. They just want harmony. So these profiles tell us all these things. We can count on that stuff as it relates to second lines. Their role in bonding with the other as it relates to any type of intimacy. So like with her friends, with anything close, her brother, her mom, anybody. And later in life, as she matures, her bonding with, with a partner will be shyness and boldness. She can count on being shy before she's bold, with moments of being bold before she's shy. But shy, this movement from first shy, because think about it, it's all second line themes. It all goes back to that behavioral norm. I'm a hermit. Leave me alone. Don't influence me. I'm busy waiting to see something no one else has seen. I'm busy waiting for magic to show up. That's what the hermit does. So when magic shows up, they're the first one to see it. Not only do they see it, they can get called, and they're called out to go express the magic of what it was they saw. As a child, this is quite a thing. They get a calling, and the next thing you know, they're off and running. But as it relates to bonding with their friends, it's shyness. So their friends come up and they're brand new friends. They're shy at first because the hermit is waiting for them to break through their barrier. They've got a barrier up.
Yeah, I actually have a story about this with my daughter, who's the 4. She had like a best friend, and her friend moved, and so she kind of had to remake friends again the new school year. And she, like you said, shy. She was so shy. And so we had to kind of like coach. I don't know if this was right or not, but we just kind of coached her, like, oh, Coco, just going up and asking people questions about themselves, or like, hey, can I play with you guys? Like, because she's so friendly, but it's like she had to be, she wanted someone to come and pull her out of her hermit shell.
Yes.
And because she's shy. She expressed it as being more shy than bold. And so we kind of had to coach her through that, Coco, like how to get friends, just go and talk to them, or say, hey, can I play with you guys? What are you doing? Oh, I like that too. Can I come join you? Like we had to kind of coach her through that. Did
that work?
It did. She was able to make some friends, and so yeah, it worked out for her. But no, everything you're saying is just, I've seen behaviors and examples of that. How you talked about how they want to leave when you're like trying to get them to listen to something or do something that they don't want to do. So like if we're cleaning in the house, and it's like, okay, like Colette, like we need to do this and this. Can you go do this? She will like go up to her room and just like hide out to try and get out of the cleaning. And and
she that does would, like, so successfully.
Yeah, she would. Yeah, like I would get frustrated with her because it's like, okay, Colette, we all got to pitch in, Right. So but now that I know that about her, I'm like, okay, or she'll act like she's busy doing something else when really she's not really doing anything, just to get out of the cleaning.
Well, she is doing something, and as soon as she's escaped the cleaning, she's actually busy in her own little trip. All second lines are busy, stuck in their own little trip. So she actually is doing something. It's just that she started doing it because she didn't want to start cleaning, of course. So she went and found something, whatever it is she's engaged in. It is a big deal to her. She's suddenly in that thing. So as the generator, at all times, you get used to asking. And the whole trick is all your generator kids asking them, Coco, do you want to help clean? And then you start this whole ritual as mom of saying, I'll always ask, but sooner or later I'll have to tell you if your answer is always no, or you always go away. So you can make the rule that honors asking at first, but then gets into this ritual of like, I'll ask, maybe I'll even ask a second time, but sooner or later I'm going to have to tell you, I need help. I need help cleaning, right? I need you to, and you can use the keynotes. She's all this individual definition. I need you to share your help cleaning. I need you to help me empower this cleaning job. Word empower. And You can say, if you don't help clean, my spirit's going to go low. She'll understand these keynotes. Well, it's true.
Yeah.
She doesn't want that spirit to go low. These are keynotes that will help her literally hop up into action to help clean, and let her do a half-ass job at first. Just she'll, because that's what she'll do at first, unless she's called. If she starts cleaning one little area and suddenly she can't help it, now she's getting every crumb and she's vacuuming it 18 times to make sure it's clean out to the edges, that's because she couldn't help it. That was good time she spent. So you have to watch for what is she called into.
Okay, I like that. I would use the word like, hey, Colette, we all need to contribute to like helping clean up. We all made these messes. Like, I don't know if that's the right word to use.
She doesn't hear contribution. She's got no gate 8 in her body graph. She hears spirit, empowerment, and sharing. Logical sharing, individual empowerment of the spirit, and she hears her own self-empowerment and what she's called into or not. Those are her words. Try it. And always ask, do you want to help clean?
You know what they're going to say? They're going to say no.
We know. Well, this is the starting of the ritual. You can inform her. Let her know, hey, I'm asking because what you say as a response is what's true. But at some point, I'm going to have to tell you because I have to run the household and you live in it. So we're going to honor your responses at first, the first time, maybe 2. So say what's true, Colette. Say what's true, please. And whatever it is, it's perfect. Let her know. And just let her know if you're not going to pitch in, we're still going to have to tell you you're going to have to, at least after the second time I ask.
Okay.
Yep.
So is it almost to kind of like get her in the habit of checking her sacral response?
Yes.
Kind of why we're doing it is to check in with herself and see like, oh, what do I really want to do?
Right.
Okay.
That's
I like
what it's for. It's not there to go through the, the effort, the useless effort of asking a child, do they want to clean their room? It's no every time except for once, in a while. So it's not to go through the practice of something that was useless. It's to go through the art of pulling from them that which their response is true. It gets them in touch with their responder, their sacral children. They have an immediate response that's true. And they need to know to honor that it's true, to hear it.
Yeah. No, I love that idea. Like it makes sense because sometimes it's like, I know what they're going to say. I don't want to ask this,
Right.
But you're saying actually it's to help get them in the habit of listening to their gut response and checking in with themselves. Because I feel like with kids, we really don't ever take into consideration what they think or what they feel. It's always like, I'm the adult, this is what we're doing. Like, you just need to do it too, And so I like how it's like, it's almost like you're respecting them and getting them in the habit of checking in with themselves and understanding.
Think about what we're doing here, Savannah and Jennifer. Think about this. We're trying to get this child, we're going to have this kid for, the first 15 years. After that, they really start making their own decisions, approximately. And the first 2 years don't count because they can't even speak. So we really got them for about 13 years, 13 or 14, depending, whereby we can still influence them and, substantially. What we're trying to do is condition them away from the not self themes of trying to think they need to do something into their immediate responsiveness, which is their truth. Once we do that for them later in life, no one will tell them what to do. That's what we're after. We're after them so that their sacral response is so profound in them that 20 and 30, someone tries to ask them to take a crappy job or to do this thing. And they're like, I don't want to. I'm not in the mood. I don't feel like it. And they'll be okay with that because their mother taught them to see it from a younger age, over and over and over again. We're dumb generators, man. We need to repeat. It's like the shampoo bottle. Repeat.
I love that because it's almost right. We get conditioned to think we're supposed to do all these things, but what really human design is teaching us to check in with the body and see what the body is telling us what's right for us, or like what path we're supposed to go on. And so, because I feel like that's the hardest part of deconditioning is we get so on our heads. We get into the like, I have to do this. I should do this, And so human design isn't that right? Like checking in with the body and seeing what the body's response is to.
Very much, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it very much is that. Don't forget, guys, when we became nine-centered beings, our body was given its own conscious awareness. It's no different than the personality. It's so conscious and aware it can speak. If you're a sacral being, it speaks right through your sacral. Sounds, motions, all of the little grunts and groans, those are all sacral sounds. And so this generator child has an immediate yes or no to everything. And then their emotional wave will tell them if that fills their spirit up. That's why you can let her know on the second or third time you have to ask, Coco, I need your help. You have to come down. My spirit is falling. I'm doing this all on my own. Don't let my spirit crash. Help me.
Yeah.
Suddenly,
I've actually said exactly what you said. I've said that to her. Like, it makes me sad when, I ask you for help and then you aren't helping me. How would that make you feel if your friend, you asked them for help and then they just ignored you? How would that make you feel? I guess that's not a yes and no question,
it's
right?
It's not careful. We listen. Just like we have to be very careful with kids when they're very little, right? They can choke, they can fall, they can hit their head, all kinds of things. We have to be extra careful when it comes to the questions. Get extra careful because you noticed it before you even finished it, Savannah.
Yeah.
That wasn't a yes, no. You can say, my spirit is low. I need your help. Help empower this. And suddenly now her second line can feel called or not. Okay, I gotta go. Because at some point you have to tell her, I need your help. What if we have to plow a field so we could eat later? You know what I mean? Kid, get out of your hermit cave or I'm going to come get you out of your hermit cave. That's a matter of survival. It's not, there's nothing wrong with that after you check in with asking them. So it really is this critical skill that we're not quite used to that I can't make a big enough deal about. We have to ask them. them.
Okay. So, I love that.
Yep.
So, I feel like, I don't know if we want to move on to another one of my children's profiles. Anything
else you want to say about Coco, or we can just move on? Because right now I'm doing the personality profile number. I'm not even hitting the design profile number, which just requires friendliness.
Yes. So I'm trying to think, look at it, but
let's move on to another kid.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm like, oh no, we spent too much time on the 2-4. I don't know if we should move on to,
because I'm Rushton.
Rushton is a 3-5, and I know the 3 is the trial and error, and they learn through doing. Like I can't tell him, hey, don't do that. Like he's only gonna really learn by doing it himself. So he's kind of the opposite in Colette. I've heard the example of like, if there was a hole in the road, I don't know if I already used this example, but a second line person would just go around the hole. And then someone with a third line would be like, hey, I'm going to jump in that hole and see what it's like being in there. And how do I get out? Right. And so the second and third line are just completely different.
They are very different.
Yeah. And so that would be, and I know the 3 is the first. So that's part of his personality. That's what he's consciously aware of about himself.
He's consciously aware of his roles. Let's go over the roles again. The role gates that determine how this child is. When I say the role gates, one is their behavior. So his behavior is the martyr, the trial and errorist, the person who's going to try this and try that. And we see that as making mistakes. So now you can know, for Rushton, there's no such thing as a mistake. There's always, what did you learn? And you can turn that into a yes, no question. Did you learn something? I realize you just broke grandma's china bowl and now I'm really pissed at that, but did you learn something? And Rushton's going to be like, yeah, I can't stack 2 stools on top of each other safely. I can only get on top of 1 stool. Something like that, I hang from the chandelier, it's going to fall out. Hey, Dad, I found out that the chandelier breaks when I hang from it. And Dad, it wants to be a little bit ticked, but he's first going to acknowledge what the kid learned, because that's how he's going to not hang from the chandelier anymore, not by beating his ass.
Yeah, so they say never be really critical of a third line child if they make a mistake. Don't beat them up for it, because that's will make them kind of start hating
being the
themselves.
martyr.
Yes.
And the rest of their themes will start to turn against them. Let's look at, go ahead, finish your thought.
Oh, I was just sorry. Like I've heard the example of like, okay, like he's pouring milk, he spills it everywhere. You know, don't get mad at him and like, you know, criticize him for like no, good. You understand now how not to pour the milk. So when you spill it, so you learned something. You know, almost like praise the mistake.
Right.
Don't beat them up, and they're always learning something, especially from their mistakes. So praise failure, I guess you could say, right?
Literally acknowledge it and don't let it be the failure. It's a learning process. If these kids don't bump into things and learn through trial and error, they won't be our fixers of the future. Think about it. We don't have anything on this planet without gobs of trial and error. That includes electricity, cell phones, housing, language. We had to try and try and try and try, and then finally it's right. You know, this tablet here, this is not the first version of this tablet. It went through 1,000 trial and errors before it was that version of that tablet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Same for everything. We got nothing without trial and error. And this is what builds their cognitive functioning. It's so amazing once they're acknowledged for their trial and error. So their role as their behavioral self is the trial and errorist. It's mutative. They're looking for the next new mutative thing. What's going to change something? They're great change agents. They're very material. Their behavior is very much in a material way. It's trying to work with the material. It's literally synthesis. The third line is the very meaning of synthesis compared to all the other lines in a profile. So that's this kid's behavior. Synthesis, putting things, this with this, this with that. Bleach and ammonia blows up. Okay, no, not that with that. No, this with this, that with that. They're always doing that. Putting things together, synthesizing things. Let them synthesize. Doesn't mean the second line can't synthesize. They have to be called into it. Suddenly they synthesize amazingly. Doesn't mean the first line won't synthesize. They're investigating. If their investigation turns up that they're about to synthesize stuff, boom, they're investigating it. But the third line will bump into it and just start trying it. Adaptation. They're very adaptive is their behavior. Their behavior is all of these things.
Third line's very resilient too. They have
I'm going to go through the other roles that this being will play out. So their role in interaction with the other, in leadership. They have a role that fits this definition of interaction with the other. Their leadership or following or being part of the thing, whatever it is. Very often it's leadership and just plain interaction with the other is the anarchist. This kid is, so as they're trying this and trying that, and suddenly they're with a bunch of kids and something isn't working, they're the first one to anarchy. The anarchist, no, tear it down. It doesn't mean they know what they're going to fill it back up with. It just, they are aware that the first line below, which is looking for the foundation, that whatever foundation just got built, it's no good. Tear it down. Dude, you built a perfect fort. Why did you tear it down? I didn't like it. It wasn't perfect. I'm an anarchist. I tore it down. That's not a problem for that kid. That kid tore down the whole fort. He's going to probably rebuild it. He has no idea what he's going to rebuild necessarily. The first lines in his chart will tell him what he's going to rebuild. Let me tell you. So look at, there's a whole slew of first lines on his design side. These are ways we diagnose the child. So 61 and 62 in his design nodes. So he's going to have a trajectory in his life that is going to investigate what's the mystery of this tree fort? What went wrong? Let me look at the details. I'm going to investigate the details of what my knowing is.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, he has 7 first lines. I never noticed that.
So there's an incredible investigator inside this kid. It's just not part of his. They will all support the role. So he'll investigate the formula of it all. Look at that. 4th line, gate 4. So he's going to investigate the formula of the tree fort that had what he didn't like and all the details that didn't happen. That's all very logical stuff. He's going to investigate what needs to be corrected. Look at gate 18, the gate of correction. That pattern didn't work. I need to correct it. I'm going to challenge this pattern into that pattern. My dad and mom said to try it this way. I don't like it. I tore it down. I'm going to challenge them. he has to challenge. So his first line has to investigate the challenge of things. When it's investigating it, the martyr comes out and is the anarchist and tears it down. His role in interaction with the other is anarchy, the anarchist. So as a ruler, if you make him be the president of the United States and suddenly nothing's working, he's going to tear it all down. Cabinet, you're fired. Congress, whatever, you're all fired. I gotta tear it down. That's his role in interaction. Now, his role in openness, this is why you can't beat up the trial and errorist in the kid. And you're still asking him questions. Did you learn something? Yeah, I learned. No, not what did you learn. You can ask what did you learn, but really the question is, did you learn something? Yeah, I learned blah, 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 da, 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 da. And they tell you all about their discovery of what they've learned. The third line is always going to discover what they learned, but their role as it relates to openness to the other becomes pessimism. It never becomes, it starts out and is pessimism. As a kid, that's healthy. It's like, Rushton, you don't look psyched about this. No, I don't know if it's going to work. Okay, good. Good deal, Rushton. You're being you. Later in life, they carry that pessimism into, I'm pessimistic about everything, rather than pessimism as a form of awareness. My body is momentarily pessimistic. That's okay. Let me look closer. I've got 7 first lines. Let me investigate this. Oh, I see what that is. I just need more nails. And let me go use a hammer because rocks don't hammer nails as good as a hammer does.
Yeah.
So my pessimism gone away.
Yeah. Because I'm a 1-3 profile, but the 3 is in my unconscious side.
So
right.
You get plagued by pessimism.
I never noticed those things about myself until, of course, I started studying human design, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I totally do do that. So I can connect with my son on this third line that we share together, that we both can kind of be always looking for what's wrong and what needs fixed, and sometimes we can come across as pessimistic, right? Which is kind of a feel like, there's like almost viewed as like a negative thing, being pessimistic.
It's not negative. It's actually your perfection. You allow the pessimism out to then be heard and help show you the way. It shows us the way in our interaction with the other and in our openness to the other. So if you find yourself open to somebody and then suddenly you get pessimistic about how is it you feel in your openness to the other, you start to shut down. That's good for you, because the other is clearly driving your pessimism as to that openness to that person in the first place. Why am I open to this person? I just get pessimistic. They're not helping me. They don't appreciate my trial and error. They don't like my anarchy. They don't like and then that their role in being their inspired, unique individual self, that role that goes right up the center, that role is sustainment. So what does Rushton do? He sustains. He sustains and sustains and sustains. He stays at it. Rushton, give up. No. Rushton, give up. Rushton, do you want to give up? No. So until he becomes truly pessimistic about that thing that he's not giving up on, he's not gonna stop. He sustains at building his fort. He sustains at trying to get outside. He sustains at not wanting to clean the house. He sustains at whatever it is his creative direction takes him on. How does that describe him?
So is the third line, are you saying they can be very persistent? Is that what you're kind of saying? Okay.
Look at them. Look at third lines like the determined discoverer, determined to discover what their trial and error will show. And do I need to be the anarchist and tear this down? And am I feeling pessimistic about it? Because pessimism just shows them. It's like a signpost that shows them, hey, I'm not actually a pessimistic person. I just have pessimism as a natural way in my openness to you. So I'm not going to listen anymore. I was listening and now I'm not. I'm tearing that down. Anarchy comes. And then their role in bonding. Their role in bonding is bonds made and broken. Bonds made and broken. So half the day they play with a friend. They break that bond. They go play with another friend. They sustain at that. And their creative way is an anarchist and will tear it down if not that. When he gets upset, the anarchy comes out of this child. He's an anarchist.
Yes. You can get really upset.
Yep. So now you can use the keynotes with him. It's like no Rushton, you're just sustaining at this stuff. The kid said, "I'm stupid." You're not stupid. Do you want to keep doing it? Yes. Then that sounds like what's true for you. Remember, we'll put it yes, no questions for the generator. He's got a definition that must correct things and must sustain at starting a process and ending a process.
Because he has that channel of judgment, right?
Yep, and the format channel down at the bottom of his body graph.
He has it twice, both design and personality. So that's a huge quality personality, right?
Yep. Yeah, that means it's really sitting there strongly in his personality. So, and in his design side. So,
yeah. Also, isn't it third lines? They're constantly changing. Like you can't expect someone with a third line to have the same interest all the time. They're constantly bouncing around to like, I'm like, yes, like I've noticed that with myself that it's like. I got really into like herbs, and then once I mastered that, then I got into like I went vegetarian for a little bit, and then after that I went vegan, and then I went back to like eating normal, and then I got into like natural yeast, like, and so I'm like bouncing around. Once I master a system, I'm like on to the new thing, which can drive sometimes other profiles crazy, right?
They're like drive the other profiles. Yes, but it's a version of been there, done that in a way. And you sustained at it. Notice when you were with the herbs, it's all herbs. What's Savannah doing? Herbs. What else is she doing? More herbs, and
then it was like meditation, and then it's yoga, and then it's Kundalini yoga, then it's vinyasa yoga. Like, so it's just funny. Once I learned that quality of a third line, it made me like kind of laugh at myself. It's like, oh, I do that. And like when I was reading about a third line to my husband, I'm like, how they change a lot and you can't expect them to stay the same. Like he just started laughing so hard because that's totally how I am. Like I am a completely different person I was when we first got married. And so I know he used to get frustrated with that, right? Like my belief systems have completely changed, and so I know that was hard for him. But now he understands that about me. So now he's just like, okay, that's just Savannah's third line energy playing out here.
What this has done in your life. So had your mom known this when you were a child, all that pessimism and sustainment and the anarchy and the trial and error wouldn't have gotten a bad rap at all. And think about it, because it's unconscious, you're not aware until it shows up out of a tunnel. Now that you have the cognitive knowledge of your design, you can be aware that, it's showing up. I know what it is.
Yes.
You don't have access to it. It's unconscious in you. It's in your design. Your body gives it to you as a chemistry. And in doing so, think of what a mental trip that is on you growing up, and then as an early adult in your 20s, before you even turn 30, all the time going through having this feeling like, I'm just pessimistic, and feeling like that's actually a way that you have to live out rather than a signpost that tells you something.
Yeah, I used to feel bad because sometimes my husband would be like, "Oh, you're just pessimistic. You're always looking at like how things aren't going to work out," and I would like get so hurt by that. And I remember when I had my first reading with you, Dan, 2 years ago, and you told me like, "No, like, that's your gift. Like that's your superpower." And I remember I cried on the call because I felt shame about my third line qualities and energies, and
we're all ashamed.
It was just so validating to talk to you. Sorry, I'm like going off on a tangent. I know we're like focusing on the children.
I'm saying we're all ashamed of our unconscious. It's the first thing that's easy enough to get ashamed about because it keeps showing up, yet it's part of us. That shame, blame, guilt, all that trip that they put on us, bad news. And that's why the magic inside the child, that's why the name of this is the human design of children. We're going to stay here for a little while so we can start to see what little Rushton's magic is. What his magic is his definition. He loves to start new things, bonds made and broken. He makes the bond with the new thing. He starts it. He wants to sustain at seeing it all through. As soon as it's not totally what he wants, he gets a little pessimistic. Out comes the anarchy. He tears it all down. And you have to find the light in all of that for him, so that he isn't conditioned away, and your intuitive mother self will find that now that you know it's his truth. And you give it to him so he doesn't get it taken away from him.
Yeah. And then isn't it also third lines? They need change. So if I try and make him do the same thing day in and day out, it might drive him crazy and he will create a crisis, right? Isn't that a thing of a third line? They'll create crises to break out of the monotony, out of like
Absolutely.
the patterns. And I know I've struggled with that a lot as a third line profile mother.
That's the anarchy. The crisis is the anarchy. They are real anarchists. They're real anarchists.
Yeah,
when it's a profile line, that's you can count on it.
I was actually talking to a mother who was also a 1-3 projector, and she was just doing that monotony. I'm like, not to like diss on motherhood, right? Like motherhood is beautiful, but I'm just saying as like a third line profile mother, we can struggle with the monotony of getting up, changing the baby's diaper, making breakfast, the same thing all throughout the day. And it, like, for me, it made me feel very depressed and like hopeless and empty inside. Like, I know that sounds bad, but like once I learned about what a third line needs, it made me know, okay, nothing's wrong with me. It's like I just need to feed those needs that a third line needs. I need to go out and explore and have change and something stimulating my mind, mentally or physically. I need to have.
Yet your daughter Coco can stay on the same thing for years.
Yes.
Second lines don't need that. They're little naturals. They're like, well, I'm just waiting. And then something comes along and calls Coco out, and suddenly Coco can move a mountain. And she is moving a mountain, by the way. Oh, and you can't stop her. Oh, look, the mountain has been moved. It's only a week later. They two totally different things.
Yeah. And so, sorry, I lost my train of thought. So yeah, so a third line, like I need to understand that Rushton, he might get really bored and crazy doing the same thing day in and day out. Like he needs new stimulating things to do or think about.
Yes.
To help feed what that third line's needing, right? And like, because I used to beat myself up that like, oh, why am I struggling in motherhood? Like, other women can do it. Like, why? But once I learned that, I'm like, okay, it's because I wasn't being able to be fed change, like mentally and physically, and being able to go out and explore. So once I get that, like I'm good, I'm happy, and I'm thriving, right? So that's what I love learning about the third line. Sorry, I've had like a lot to share on the third line just because I am a 1-3 profile. Like not to be made feel bad. Like if you're not getting what that profile number needs, like you're going to struggle, right? But if you know what it needs and you give it
all
to
that
it,
shame is going to. That shame that's going to come in is going to come in surrounding that and come in surrounding what the unconscious profile number is. I'm not going to go through all the things of the unconscious right now. I'm sticking with the personality. But this 3-5 profile, that fifth line on the backside, that is unconscious to him. He experiences it. And so the fifth line is seen as the saint and the savior and the general and the heretic if they're too much of an anarchist and they just want things to look good. And they're projected upon that they'll be good. They're always projected upon that they'll be the glorious little shiny kid and that they'll be the one that fixes stuff. That's behind the scenes. So he is clobbered with that. Why did they want this from me? And I can't do it. And suddenly pessimism turns into something I'm not good enough. And now pessimism stays rather than being an intermittent thing that just flashes by like a thought when you're meditating. You let it go by. I'm really pessimistic about that. I think we're going to run out of gas, guys. Let's not test this too much farther. Okay, test it. We'll find out.
Yeah, it makes, so the fifth line is he's not aware and conscious that people are constantly projecting on him these high expectations, right? Because that's built into the fifth line aura, is that you're sending out, you're not even consciously aware you're doing, your aura is doing it for you. It's sending out that, hey, I can solve your problem for you. Like I'm your savior. Like come to me. I have the answers for you, And so we tend on fifth lines to put a lot of pressure on them and these high expectations. And then if they don't meet them, we feel super let down by them and turn them into the villain.
Yeah.
5-1.
5-1. Yeah, that's Jennifer. We're speaking Jennifer's language. So
very much so. I know very well the 5.
So did that happen a lot in your childhood, Jen?
It actually started when I was younger. Around the 2nd grade, I switched from a public school to a private school. And so every grade had the same people. So by the time second grade all the way up to sixth grade, like one classroom was one grade. That's how small it was. And it was the same people. So I was sitting outside of the classroom by sixth grade because I was getting bullied. So that projection, and then like, being ostracized by your community has been kind of a theme with me. And it's not until getting into my design, I'm like, oh, yes, okay, this makes sense why people are projecting. So I've worked on what, learning, well, with the one, since I'm the investigator, I'm investigating what expectations other people are placing upon me.
Right. Mm-hmm. Now think about it, Jen. When you spot the right expectation that you're in the mood to take on, suddenly you've allowed your aura to give you the necessary knowledge so that you can not do the other 10 things and just do the one thing. You've literally found a filtering system to get all that gone. But poor Rushton, it's on his unconscious design side. So he just sort of suffers through that, and he starts to get paranoid about, what do they want from me? What do they want? Yeah. What do they want? So now you can point out to Rushton, they want you to basically use your energy to help them begin something and see it all the way through. So you have to ask yourself, do you feel like you're in the right place? What people want out of the other is what is in their design emanating out their aura. So he's got this powerful channel that's 5342. This is a channel of maturation. It's a format channel. Everything in his body graph will now resonate with the frequency of beginnings, middles, and ends, maturing a process, starting it and completing it, experiencing something from the beginning through the middle to the end.
Isn't that like the high expression of it? Can it also the low expression be where they don't finish? They start a whole bunch of things but don't finish it?
Right. That low expression is because we didn't ask Rushton. Rushton, do you like this? Do you want to do this? Is this something you want?
Oh, so you're saying he has to want and desire to do it in order for him to finish it?
Yes.
Yep.
And that'll come out as an immediate response. Notice he's not emotional. He doesn't wait for an emotional wave to get further clarity like the emotional definition would demand. He's just a generator, a splenic generator, no less. So stuff comes in immediately. It's an immediate hit. This is good for me. This isn't good for me. I like this. This meets my taste. This is to my judgment. I agree. I like this. I'm not judgmental. I'm picky.
Is the 54 the one that connects the root to the sacral, the one you're just a channel of maturation? And sometimes that manifests as like ADHD, to where they only want to focus in and do something if they desire to do.
Yeah. Because don't you dare medicate this child. There's no ADHD in this kid. There is a focused, there's a desire to basically sit still, focus on the thing that he can start and have an experience with. The desire to experience a beginning, a middle, and an end of a process.
Because like when I found out he had that channel in his chart, I was kind of like, huh? Because he struggles with finishing things. He's been diagnosed with like ADHD and things like that. Like I haven't like given him any medication or anything like that.
He no longer struggles with finishing things. Now you can ask him, do you want to finish it? Because he's a third line, bonds made and broken. He might want to break the bond with that thing. He's a third line. The anarchist may say, I don't like it. The pessimism may come through and say, this sucks. I started it. I don't want to finish it.
Yes.
You have to ask him, does it suck, Rushton? Does it? Yeah, it sucks. Okay, that's great. Thank you. So now you can stop. Kids don't quit. They stop. We assign quitting as a lack of a virtue. And I call BS on that. No way. That's not a lack of a virtue. It's I'm stopping.
Yeah, but I guess the hard part is like there's going to be things at school that they have to do. They can't not do it. You know what I mean? So it's like, but if he doesn't want to do it, that desire has to be there for him to finish it. You see what I'm saying?
You have to ask him, and then you're going to have to go to the mat with the teacher, and you're going to have to, as a parent, even if you're BSing a little bit, you have to make up a couple of excuses or whatever it takes to work inside the corrupt machine of public schools that can be sometimes very regimentedly oriented towards homogenizing. Never mind, sometimes it's oriented towards homogenization. That's what public schools do. That's what everything does. It's not public schools'
Mhm.
fault. It's all that way. And so you're going to have to go to bat. And if it means you have to get a little tricky, which I know you can do, you get tricky with that teacher so that Rushton, we buy him the extra time he needs to get a thing done, or to simply say, I'm not doing it. Rushton, do you want to do it? Does this make you feel good? Do you like watching yourself do this? Did you want to at first? I'm not sure. You're going to get lots of I'm not sure, mostly or probably. And look at the split in this kid. This kid has one bridging gate. His whole focus goes to that. Look, he's super enthusiastic in the beginning, and then he quits because he doesn't think he has the depth.
The gate, I can't see it. What is it? Gate
It's
48.
gate 48, where he's got the depth.
Mm-hmm. So he constantly feels like he doesn't have enough.
Doesn't have the depth.
Something.
Yeah, so now you can talk to him specifically about depth. You're here to be enthusiastic as soon as you feel that that's the right thing for you. As soon as you're enthusiastic, that's correct for you. If you're not here to finish everything, you're here to start stuff. And you'll only finish when it was so correct for you that you feel yes all the way through. Sometimes you're not going to mature the process. You're designed to mature the processes that you enter into correctly as yourself, which is somebody who's not concerned with the depth. They're just excited that they suddenly have a skill. Stop seeking the depth. Do you want to seek the depth? I don't know. He'll get confused if you ask him about depth. He won't get confused when you ask him about enthusiasm and skills and the sudden gate 16 of it all, which is all about enthusiasm and skills to suddenly identify with something. He is identified, but he also identifies he doesn't have the depth sometimes.
So Rushton will be successful when he's doing something that he really truly does desire and want to do, and his sacral
and
is
gets a
telling
yes
him
response into. It's so
he will
simple.
finish that thing if it's that way for him. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Yep.
Just yes.
Okay, I love this. This is helping me a lot. So Jen, I know you had a son. What's his profile? I'm curious.
I cannot remember what his profile is, to be honest.
Let's move on to the next kid. The next kid.
Oh, sorry.
We have a 5'1" and a 1'3". Which one?
Let's do the 5'1".
Okay. Yeah.
Something I know.
Oh God, Thatcher. So that's a lot of action going on there. Right? Very busy down below. And lots of activity up top. I mean, nothing up top, but very open, very open
throat.
So he's not here to be certain of stuff. He's not here to know the answers to all the questions. He's here to, and he open throat wants to try to attract attention. And look at all the gates pointing at that throat. Look at it's like a convergence of an attack on all sides at an open throat. See, there's a gate 36, a gate 48, a gate 57, a gate 10, a gate 7, a gate 21. They're all pointing at the throat. It's like everyone's got a gun pointed at his throat. So he's under terrible pressure to try and express things. So
yeah, he has like all the behaviors of the not self theme of an open throat. Like he's loud. He's always constantly talking. He's always constantly saying shocking things to get my attention. And so he feels like he's heard. You know, those are all the not self things of an open throat. So sometimes I'm like, I don't know how to help you with that, Thatcher. Like, I don't know. I mean, yes, no question.
Well, now you can ask him, do you want me to know? Do you need help with that? Do you think you need help with that? You can ask him whenever you run into an open head center, you can always ask the follow-up question, are you sure? To get them in touch with they have an inalienable right to not know. That's what openness does. So open head and ajna, they don't know. They're not supposed to be the knower. They're supposed to experience their knowing as a sacral response. And then they can know what's true for them as a response, not in the mental head trip of, oh, I figured it all out and I have the formulas, and because A plus B plus C, now I know. That's the mental activity, which is who he is not. So you can start asking him about what you see in his not self characteristics. You start asking him, hey, is that how you like? Do you like being like that? Does that feel good? And when he and are you giving yourself permission to say I don't know, Thatcher? Are you giving yourself permission to say I don't know? This is a beauty we give ourselves. It is a sacred gift that we allow, and it's a true love of ourself when we say I don't know, I'm not sure, I can't tell, I don't feel like it, maybe, all of these things which indicate uncertainty.
So that's because that's what the ajna, the not self of the ajna, is wanting to be certain, right?
Yep.
So you're saying, let me give him permission to say I don't know,
right?
Like to be uncertain. It's okay and it's good to be uncertain, right?
For you, Thatcher, it's wicked good to be uncertain, because in your uncertainty, you'll finally start telling the truth about yourself. So he's born in 15, so that means he's already 7 years old. He's gone through his first Saturn cycle, first Saturn quarter of all of his cells have been aligned now in one way. So we now have to decondition that in his next 7 years. So you got 7 years to keep asking the questions, and when you see an open ajna, the question can be intermittently sprinkled in. Are you certain? Do you need to be certain? Are you certain you're even thinking about the right thing? Does it even matter?
Does it even matter?
Does it even matter? Thinking about things that don't matter.
Yeah.
So he thinks things matter, but they don't. And he gets so focused on situations that don't. Because he does do that. I've noticed that about him.
So when you ask him, does it even matter? Yeah, and he'll throw out all that sacral energy. Look at all that juice. He's connected 1, 2, 3 times to his sacral. That's 1, 2, 3 different connections to his sacral, and he's got 3 motors in his body graph, and he's got a lot of energy, this kid.
Yes.
Yes, gobs of it. And so he may come out with this blazing, sounds like anger, frustration of, yes, I need to know. You can ask him, are you sure? And if, I'm sure, you can ask him, but does that feel good? You'll get an honest answer sooner or later. And then you can start to point out, see, that's where you have a spot here in your belly. It's right down here. It has an immediate yes, no for you. And if you're still not sure after that, then you have an emotional wave that you experience. It feels sad, but it's where you get smart. It feels like sadness, but we're going to rename the sadness. It's called creativity now. That's where you get creative. And we're going to say it over and over and over again until it becomes foundational for this young man.
Yeah. Also, he has that channel of sensitivity that connects the root to the emotional solar plexus. And
it's
so
about sensitivity and need. And so he becomes needy.
Yes. So if he feels like he's being excluded by the group of friends, like he takes that very, very personally.
Yep.
And I noticed when my husband would, he used to work out of state a lot. And so I'd be left alone with the kids a lot. And whenever my husband would leave, it was almost like Thatcher would take that personally. Like, why is my dad leaving me? And so I noticed he had the most emotional outburst and like emotional behavior after his dad would leave. And he would actually like cry and be like, I miss my dad. I want my dad. Sorry, this is like really sad.
Well, look at what he's helpless to. Let's look real quick at what he is helpless to before we start talking about this 5th line personality. He is helpless to the red lines in his body graph. The first one that stands out to me is he is helpless to gate 55. What is the spirit of this situation? What is the spirit? And gate 55 is in a line 6. So he wants to be selfish about what fills his spirit. That's correct for him. He's an individual. He's got all his individual definitions. So that's wicked correct for him.
Yeah.
Let him be that. And so his dad left it, filled his spirit. I also know his dad's got a gate 59. So that bridges a split.
Yes, his dad has that gate that bridges his split. So it would be like whenever his dad would leave, he could feel that sense of not feeling whole, right? Because that bridge is on connecting those two centers that are talking to each other. So that's what would happen. Every time my husband would leave and go work out of state, it was like emotional chaos would ensue for like weeks afterwards. And I hated it. And then I was kind of left to like pick up the pieces from it. But like, it's so interesting seeing, like learning human design and looking at our charts. And it's like, okay, that's why that happened, is because their dad had that missing gate that bridged their splits. Like for Thatcher, it did that for Thatcher. It did it for Colette, and it also did it for my son Rushton. So it's almost like my husband's chart and his energy and his gates would complete and fulfill all those missing gates for my kids. And so it makes sense why
fill them in. And that's conditioning. Now we need him to know he's being conditioned by that. We're not here to avoid the conditioning. We're here to understand it. And as kids, they'll understand it so much more naturally as you start using the keynotes of his channels for who he is, including the sensitivity. You start using the keynotes for his inner authority, which is emotional, and you start recategorizing hope to pain to productive and creative. You're out being productive when you're hopeful and you're happy and you're out doing stuff. And when you're sad and in that melancholy, you it's not your way down on your wave and you're depressed. It's where you get creative. It's where you get smart. It's where your wisdom is. You got to let them know this. And you keep letting them know it's where you get creative. It's where you get smart. It's I'm sorry, Thatcher. This is actually good. It's healthy for you. It's healthy for you to not know. It's healthy for you to go down on this wave. It just means you're getting creative. And it means something you didn't know before is about to show up. Now let's talk about this fifth line as it relates to his personality profile. So the fifth line is transpersonal. It's always going to want to deal with the other. Transpersonal lines are always looking out over the other.
Isn't it the difference between a fourth line and a fifth line?
Yes.
The fifth line is here to interact with strangers. They're here to influence the strangers. But a fourth line, they're here to influence just their small group of friends and community.
Just their network. Yeah, their network, and they want to be influential. But the fourth line has this externalization component. They've got to externalize. But they make the middle binary. So it's very mutative, the third and fourth line. But the fifth line, you're out of that middle binary. You're in the top binary, which is all about transitioning out. And fifth lines are literally here to be of consequence to strangers. That's one of the things that they do. But let's go over their profile definitions. So their behavior, they're the heretic. They're always bringing something new because they can universalize. They received a projection field. Paranoia shows up in this person because they get projected upon too much.
PTSD.
Yes, I see that chuckle, Jennifer. It's priceless.
Isn't it also like the fifth lines can feel very lonely because they feel like people don't really know them for who they are, because people are constantly projecting onto them what they think they can do, or who they are, but it's not really who they are, right? So fifth lines can feel just super alone and like
not seen, because people are seeing this projection field that's going out. So second and fifth lines are the lines of projection. The second line just projects out like a radio. They don't even know they're doing it. People circle around, orbit around them, and pick up their signal and be like, oh, I'm going to project upon you that you might have this thing for me because you projected out that you've got all these talents and you're a natural at something. So the second line's projecting out. The fifth line's receiving the projection of others. That's what gives them their transpersonal skill. If you're constantly receiving that projection, you get to choose. I like yours. I don't like yours. I like yours. Yours sucks. And this one is great. I'm taking that.
Isn't that like what they tell fifth lines is like, you can, like, the more you are clear with your boundaries and communicating like, yes, I can do this for you. No, I can't. It will help make it so they aren't turned into the villain or the heretic, right? That's like,
and that's a matter of following their strategy and authority. Jen will inform the other. Nope, no can do. The generator will, in response, do the same thing. The projector, they have to recognize if they're even being recognized or not. And then at that point in time, they can do what the channels in their body graph are empowering them to do.
But doesn't also the fifth line, they have an advantage with that projection field because they're attracting all these opportunities, right? From strangers. So they can actually use that projection field to like their advantage, right?
In big ways. Let's go over these keynotes. So the behavior, we just did that. That's the heretic, the person who brings something new and is being projected upon to bring something new. Their role in interaction and in leadership is the general. Oh, general, please come save us. Fix it. You'll make it work. Hey, let's call the general out of mothballs. He'll go win the war for us. She'll go win the war for us. She'll make it all better. So it's a projection field that is receiving the projection of that they're the general. They may or may not be the general, but that's their role in interaction with others. Let me take charge or not. And it's always being a person of consequence. They take charge. Once they do so, after they're done, you get out.
Because aren't people projecting onto them that they can be their savior and the leader?
So their role in openness, in listening, their role in listening and their openness to the other, people project upon them that they are the savior, the saint and the savior.
So they're either meeting the
projection. Jen, you'll listen to all my things. Oh, now that you heard it, I'm projecting upon you that you're a saint. You're going to save me. You'll save me by listening. Oh, you're going to keep listening. Oh, what? You're burnt out and you don't want to listen anymore? Well, let me burn you at the stake for the heresy of having abandoned me. Yeah, not your fault.
I cannot tell you how much of a relief knowing that is. Because that happens.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, it is a relief, but I'm also learning how to work with it as well.
Yeah.
In my boundary setting and communicating that.
Right. So so that's a role in openness. So we've got the general, the saint, savior, the heretic. How about their creative role in their creative self-expression? Their role, they aspire to this attractiveness, beauty, prettiness, make it look good. They just want to make stuff look good. So Thatcher's always arranging the food on his plate to look right before he eats it. Thatcher is always, putting if when he goes into school, he doesn't go into school all disheveled unless he's in a really bad mood.
Yes, that's funny you say that because he's my only child, because he's my only 5'1" child.
Fixes himself up.
Before he goes to school, his hair has to be done, and he has to like his clothes and make sure he thinks they look good. Like, he's very self-aware of his appearance. And I remember you telling me that's a fifth line thing, especially if it's in their personality and they're consciously aware of it. And like, my husband's a 5'1", so he's always like,
he always looks good. I know Jake is,
and like wears cologne and So it's funny that you say that. Like, fifth lines, 5'1s are very consciously aware of like their appearance and how they're like appearing to the other. It makes them
aspire to role. So what does that do in the grander scale of things? It's here to drive the aesthetic of beauty. Now that's a big freaking deal. That's a great big deal. He's here bringing that into the world as his aspire to role. It's not shallow. It gets treated as shallow. And then suddenly this person is getting paranoid because their role in interaction with other has received too many projections, and they don't want to be the general, the saint, the savior. They don't want to be the attractive one to that person, and they start getting paranoid. What do they want from me? What do they want from me? And it's conscious, so they have conscious connection to this. So he's in class. If he doesn't want to answer the question of what's going on in class, he finds himself ways to like put his head down, look the other way. He is good at making sure he's not attracting a projection, but he can't stop it. The second he doesn't want to answer the question in class is about the time, at least half the time, he can be assured they're going to call on him.
Okay, I've got a question on this in the 5'1" that I recognized when I was younger. You couldn't hide from anything.
You can't hide.
So when I was a teenager, I was getting in trouble, and we'd go to parties and the police would come. There'd be 100 people there, and I would be spotted out in the crowd.
Yeah.
It didn't matter what I did to hide. It was like magnet.
Yeah, and me as the hermit, I would go hermit myself immediately, and I would be not singled out.
That's so funny. That's crazy. Not it's crazy, but it makes me laugh because it's so
true.
With my kids. Yeah. Yep. And then, so that's interesting.
Thatcher, what did you do? Thatcher, what's going on in here?
So they're always drawing attention. A 5'1" is drawing people's attention in without even trying or doing anything.
And put it inside of a generator where we know the mechanics of the aura is open and enveloping. It's open and enveloping to everything. So therefore,
he gets lots of attention then.
Lots of attention because
which he is. Like, I feel like he's pretty, like, I guess you could say, like, popular at school. Like, he has lots of friends, and it's like he talks about how kids are always trying to come and play with him. and be part of his like little posse at like at school. So that's funny. Like that makes sense now that I learned that about a 5-1. So
well, he's got a great deal of power, and he's also very self-centered. He's got to live out this way for him. And so at that, again, asking him questions. And I notice he's got this right angle cross of the plane. This just came out of Eden. So out of Eden onto the plane. He can't hide. He's onto the plane, living it out with the other. The cross of the plane brings that part of the vessel of love. We're moving into the vessel of love with this. And another day and a half, had he been born a day and a half later, he would be squarely in the vessel of love with the 46 gate at the top.
Oh, no way, that's funny. So I almost would have had a vessel of love. Isn't the cross of the plane? It's like they're very like wrapped up and enveloped like in the body and the body's experience, and then also like physical material things. Isn't that a thing of a cross?
Yeah, no, the physical material things are always going to be a part of it, but what really shows up the most is the crisis and conflict. And I apologize, that 36 is moving to the 25th gate, universal love of all things. That's where it's moving to in the wheel. So when you're in Eden, you come out of Eden and you realize, oh my God, I have to work and I have to feed myself and stuff like that. And it seems like a bummer. Once they've gone through that whole process and gone through the crisis, they realize, hey, now they're on the plane. His whole incarnation is about his own self-centered way to recognize how is he affecting the attractiveness of the plane. And his whole role in all of that is the saint, the savior, the general, the heretic sometimes, who brings the heresy that people project upon. Bring us a heresy. We need it new. The old way isn't working. And and then the last one I would go over is his role as it relates to bonding. His role as it relates to bonding is seduction, the seducer or the seduced, the conditioner or the conditioned. All fifth lines are either that they start out with a seduction, because think of their aspire to role, attractiveness. So attractiveness is seductive. Seduction is attractive. That's what we all want. Every hexagram starts out with a foundation in the first line, and what that foundation is, what society wants that hexagram to be, is the expression of the fifth line.
Yeah, isn't the fifth line's very charismatic and has like a natural like sexiness to them? Isn't that right? Like
yes, the Casanova and the femme fatale. This is the fifth line. So his fifth line is always seducing somebody. Born in 15, so 7 years old. So by now, his friends find him seductive.
So you're saying when he gets older, he might be a little Casanova and attracting all the ladies? Is that what you're saying?
Well, didn't your husband do that to you?
Yeah. No, but it's funny you say that, because he is like, Thatcher's already like, girls have crushes on him and chase him and stuff like that. So I totally see that 5-1, that like the charisma, attractive, like sexiness energy that fifth line has and exudes.
Until the bond is really made, and then that person expects stuff from him, and he lives a life of hell and torture because he can't live up to their expectations that they projected upon him. So it's a thin veneer, and it's a pile of BS. It's a pile of cow dung. If you try and look at it like, hey, this is the greatest thing ever. It's not. It only is if you live it out as yourself. So he'll have an immediate response to, does he even like that bond? He'll have an emotional response to, is that right for me? And any girl that sort of likes him and he finds himself attracting them, he still can't say yes right away. He's got an emotional wave to go through to determine, is this person sensitive enough to meet my needs? That's the channel of synthesis. It's all about sensitivity to need. It's tribal. It's supportive. Do they support me? So when he gets into his first relationship, he's going to find out the hard way, which he needs to, obviously, but hopefully we're getting to him in time where you start asking him all the questions about his attractiveness. Don't you like that, Thatcher? Does that feel good? Yeah, it feels great. Okay, good. Do you want
doesn't this help me to know that I'm constantly projecting onto Thatcher that he can meet my expectations, right? Both my sons, that's the case, because they both have fifth lines, but of course, one's conscious and one's unconscious. So I'm constantly projecting onto Thatcher that he can do certain things and be certain things for me, but then I get let down if he doesn't meet them, right? So that's why human design would tell me, hey, stop putting expectations on Thatcher. And my husband, because my husband's a 5-1, so we got a lot of 5 energy in my family.
Yep.
But So yeah, it's kind of life
my oldest
changing to
daughter.
learn that. What?
I did it with both my children.
My
Both
mom
children.
did it with me. Nothing was ever good enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
I always constantly felt like I had to. It wasn't until my adult year that we actually had a full conversation about how she was making me feel that nothing was ever, like I couldn't do anything right.
Right. Well, with my kids, it was the opposite. Everything about them was great. Oh, that's great. You're going to figure that out. Oh, that's great. So I was projecting upon them that not everything is great. Dan, at a young age, my daughter came home. I'll never forget this. She came home from first grade or something like that. It was just a thing. Why are you crying, honey? I found out I'm not the prettiest princess in the world. A girl told me I can't be the prettiest. There's 7 billion of us. How could I possibly be the prettiest princess? I had been projecting upon her that she's the prettiest specialist princess ever. Now that seems harmless at a young age. Of course, dad's going to fawn over his beautiful little girl. You know what I mean? And think, but I didn't know she's a 5'1". I was projecting upon her that she's Princess Ariel from Under the Sea, and she's perfect or whatever. I'm mixing up, Disney characters, but it doesn't matter. It was all innocent, and we didn't know. And so she came back crying one day because she found out she's not actually the specialist, prettiest, bestest thing in the world.
Oh,
yes, she was, and I was like, I remember saying to myself, "Oh dear, what have you done, Dan?" Because she had just undergone 3 years of conditioning. That's exactly what she was,
So with the 5th line, do we have to check in with a spouse or a child? Hey, this is what I'm expecting. Is this what you can actually do or give me? Would that be to communicate with them, your expectations?
About this child, yes, and everything about this child puts the word "feel" in front of it as a question. Not every single question has to have it, but lean on it a lot. Do you feel? Because he's got this emotional channel that's about the sensitivity to support. Does he feel like supporting this? And when it's a real crisis and you actually need something, you tell Thatcher, we're in a crisis. I need you. I need your support. The family needs it. That word support, need, sensitivity, these words are keynotes that will activate Thatcher to want to help in the moment as the powerful generator that he is.
Mm-hmm.
He's got all this generative juice, and he won't necessarily feel like he wants to, but as soon as you add need and sensitivity and support into your sentences, when it really comes true, it doesn't alleviate you from asking him. You have to ask all of them, always, all your generator children. You've got to get real good at carving out yes, no out of how you've been doing it so far and make a game of it. But yes, check in with yourself. Am I projecting upon him? Check in with him. Hey, does that feel okay, Thatcher, that I do this? Do you feel okay when your friends say that? What was the thing he did? He came in playing tag, and his older brother was being a jerk and kept tagging him out. And you suddenly had a moment of awareness where instead of asking a why question, what did you ask him? He came in freaking out, crying, screaming, as I recall.
Yeah. I said, are you frustrated, Thatcher? And he's like, yeah.
Okay. Yes, no.
Do you want to keep playing with them? No. Okay. Do you want to come hang out with me instead? I was asking questions like that.
And he went from 100 down to 0 in how many minutes?
He calmed down really fast because I was trying to logically talk him through it and asking him why questions, but it just wasn't working. It was making him more upset and more angry. But I feel like once I used yes, no questions, it was validating his sacral response and it calmed him down really, really fast. So yeah, that was a testament to me to become more aware of the type of questions I'm asking him.
And it's going to work every single time. That's how it works with all your generator children. It's listen, the monotony of yes, no, you might get bored with that. You might feel a little pessimistic about that, Savannah, and you'll have to find ways to dress that up, but you only got a few years of it. You know what I'm saying? And
yeah, I feel like the projector in me wants to ask why questions, right? It wants those deep, long answers, yes, no, it's kind of, so I'm going to have to change how I do these things. But so the 5th, sorry, just to go over the 5th line. Should I always communicate what my expectations are?
No.
Of them or no?
You ask him in whatever your expectation is, turn it into a yes, no question at him.
Okay.
You, as it relates to, I realize that's not easy. So offline, if you want to call later, we can come up with ways that'll work. But intuitively, Mom, I just know the intuitiveness of a mother will figure this out quickly. I just know you will. It's in there. So you have to ask him questions around that.
Okay. So I know we've been on for like an hour and 25 minutes. Like, I don't know. I feel bad. I know we've gone over 3 of the profiles.
What's the last profile?
I don't know if you want to go over like the 1-3 profile like next week or like a 4-6 profile, even though I don't have a 4-6
Who's
profile.
got the 4-6?
Oh, but yeah, it's just been an hour and 25 minutes. So I don't know if you want to keep.
Who has a 4-6, Savannah?
Oh, not in my family, but
Okay.
I'm just saying next time we talk, if you want to go, we could cover the 1-3 profile. And
Do you feel like gatekeeping the time here? What do you think? Should we cut and pick this up later?
yeah.
We could, if we are missing a 4-6 profile, we can add a 4-6 profile in it and do both next week. Is that the only other profile we need to go over?
Yeah, we just the 1-3 and the 4-6. Well, and there's also like a 6-3 and a 6-2.
There's 12 profiles. We're going to get to them all, but we're just doing your family. The idea is to watch this mother and father have their family experience with their children, and we're watching it morph over time. You know,
No,
so
keep it all together.
okay, so we have one profile left, the 1-3.
Okay, you want to go for the 1-3 profile? Okay.
Yep. So this 1-3 profile, the first line is what's conscious to a 1-3. So this is a manifesting generator. They're super busy. They're super emotional, and they need to know stuff. They got channels of knowing and individuality. So what's the first line? Their behavior is the investigator. The chameleon whose behavior blends in until their investigation is complete. The foundation builder. This is their behavior, their role as their behavior in the world. So what's their role in interaction with the other? The first line is the authoritarian. Why? They built a freaking foundation. They know. So in interaction with the other, it becomes, I'm the boss, I'm the authoritarian, I know. If their authority is if they don't have any of that stuff, they're terribly insecure about their authority. So their behavior comes out as, I'm not the authoritarian, I'm insecure. They can feel terribly insecure about their behavior and interaction with the other when they don't know. And they can't know until that foundation is complete.
So that's what pushes them and drives them to investigate, correct?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Because otherwise they're isolated in the world. They got no foundation. They can't even be friends with somebody until they.
Studying is what makes them feel secure and confident in themselves and the information and their surroundings.
So Bodhi, who's just a little baby, Bodhi's going to investigate everything. His investigation, I imagine, so far has centered around your boob and moved out from there. Essentially, is that?
Yeah. Yeah, you can see that.
That's all fair game. You know, his investigation is going to be anything he can hold on to and put into his mouth, anything he can smell and taste and put on his body and put his hands on. And he's grabbing everything. He's got to grab everything. This child has got to investigate. The role in interaction is authoritatively, he demands your attention.
Yes.
Okay. You can't help that.
Very needy. Yes.
Now, his role in interaction with the other as it relates to his openness. His role in his openness, you can't quite tell yet because he's just a kid, but it's called empathy. It's what it is this role in openness is also renamed our limited perspective. Remember, it's limited. We limit it. The second line limits their perspective through bigotry. The first line limits their empathy through they only have so much of it. They can't stay empathetic, but they are it in a limited basis. The fifth line can be the savior in a limited fashion. They can't stay the savior. You know, the third line is the pessimist, but they can't stay pessimistic. That's just a life. That's a torturous life. So empathy. This child.
The first line is they tend to be empathetic people. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's not that they're necessarily empathetic people. It's that they have empathy that is natural to them. And that empathy comes out and it makes them appear as if they're empathetic. But don't forget, it's limited. It's their limited perspective on the world. They will limit it by taking So I need to take a hunk of empathy here, and that hunk of empathy helped me discover what the foundation of that person is that I'm investigating. You can't investigate that which you have no empathy for. If you have absolutely no empathy, you're not open to it. So empathy is the way of the first line, so that they can empathize, and through the empathy comes the deep and depth of discovery, of investigating. They're here investigating.
So someone who's a 5-1 profile, they would also have that empathy, right? So my little Thatcher,
yeah,
and 1-3. So it's like we can be deeply empathetic to like our if our experience matches someone else's, then which I am. People have told me I'm very empathetic. Like I do. Like if I see someone crying, I will cry. You know.
Yeah. This is all things. So now that empathy, so you can discover what the foundation of this investigation is going to yield. But when you're done discovering that, your interaction with the others, I'm the boss. I know how these herbs go. I know how these candles get made. I know how this family gets run. Don't try and tell me, Jake. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I know the one, they will tend to turn to other authority figures to get the ground information to collect and that data information. And then they like to kind of almost cling to that information, right? So if someone comes in and is like, no, it's like this, a 1-3 would be like, no, it's not.
Right.
This is the ground information.
Well,
right?
The 1-3, don't forget the anarchist is in the background. So that anarchist is always willing to come out and be an anarchist and tear it all down. But the thing is, it's unconscious. And the first line is like, I just finished investigating this. Why do I hate it? Why am I why am I tearing it down?
Coming from a 5-1, I can only imagine that.
Yes, think of how hard that can be on them psychically. They don't know, and it's totally It's not a transpersonal sign. This is a profile. It's a right angle profile. It's so concerned with itself first. The most important thing to Bodhi is Bodhi, ever.
Because the one is very introverted, right? Very introspective and very introverted.
Yes, it starts out that way because they're not quite sure. But as soon as they have a foundation, they're sure. And this kid is wicked emotional. He's on the plains. He's on Eden. So he's leading up to the plane. He will be out in the world. You know what I mean? But out in the world as somebody who's introspective. So the authoritarian, empathy, introspection, studying, investigating, foundations, behavior. How about this creative way? What is this creative way for this first line? It's called creative, the creative. He is the foundation of creativity, which is simply inspiration without a limitation. Independent of ego, inspiration independent of will. He can't make it happen. He is it. Whatever this kid's inspiration is, inspiration and the what he feels when his creativity is pouring out of him, that's what he's investigating. He's investigating that which he's pouring out through his creative way. His creative way is not harmony like mine, is not sustain. I'll sustain at my creative way. No, it's just creativity. So whatever he's into is his creativity. Whatever I'm into might be my creativity, but if there's no harmony, I'm going to move on, or I'll keep it in the background and get back to it later. Not this kid. They are the creativity, and the bonding strategy of this kid is not bonds made and broken. Well, it is on the third line side, but on the personality side, it's just the caveman, cavewoman. It's the pursuer or pursued, the person who's going to go out and get it or not. It relates to bonds.
Can you give an example of that? Like, so you're saying like a first line is just very wrapped up in like their own inner experience, and so they aren't really like, aware of like the other people around them. Is that kind of
these are all lower trigram lines. The 1 and the 3 complete the lower trigram. The lower trigram is really just concerned on its own gate themes, on its own self. It's not until you get to the upper trigram lines, all the 4, 5s, and 6s are looking out across the channel or across the circuitry. But all the 1, 2, 3 lines are self-absorbed.
Self-absorbed. Yes. Okay. I was going to say that because I'm a 1-3 and I get so wrapped up into like what I'm investigating and what I'm studying that it's like, I don't care about that relationship over there. Like, I just want to study this thing I'm into right now. You know, like I get that.
You're helpless in that.
Yeah.
Right. So
But
recognize.
see, Thatcher, who's a 5'1", and my husband, who's a 5'1", they have that. It's almost like there would be a good mix, right? Because they have that intrapersonal side being the fifth line, but then the first line is very introspective. So would you say they're a good mix of extrovert?
Yes, absolutely. They have. Dad seems to have, for whatever reason, he seems to have this connection with all the children that helps condition them. And he is a supreme conditioner. He's got that whole channel of emoting, so he knows what to condition over time as an emotional awareness. So Dad helps condition the spirit of the family.
Yeah. Sorry, I kind of went off track on the 5'1". Sorry, I pulled away from the 1-3. I guess I'm trying to give an example of how a 1-3 is different from like a 5'1". I think that was like.
Well, it's all in what's in the personality profile line. So the first line is simply being the investigator whose creativity must come out. And once it does come out, it's because they investigated, they have a foundation, they feel as if they're an authority on what their creativity is. So the creativity simply is creativity that's independent of will, the creative.
So me and Bodhi, we're aware that we like to investigate, but for Jen, she probably wasn't initially really aware of her first line profile since it's in her
How does that
design.
resonate, Jen?
That does resonate until my awakening. It actually not, because I thought about it over the years since I had my awakening. The more I became self-aware, I started to notice these things about myself. And I was like, why am I investigating, or why am I drawn to investigate things? So to some level it is conscious, but for many years it was not.
Right. That's exactly how it goes. So
the design side, we usually start to become aware of it once we're getting up towards 40. We start to become aware of that, the unconscious design red side of our chart, right?
Yeah, well, along the way, it's along the way. What we do is we notice it as a trait. It's like, oh, I guess I'm just that way. But we don't trust it. We have to experience it as that trait over and over again until we come to trust it, until someone comes along and reads their design for them and says, no, you got this. Look it, you have words for it now. So just trust that it's going to show up. It keeps showing up.
That's why I love human design, is because it like tunes you in to your subconscious part of your personality that you probably aren't really aware of, but it helps you become aware of it, so that you can just transform your life. So anyway.
So true.
Yeah. But
well, I'm feeling pretty wrapped up here as it relates to these profiles and your children. This is another child you're going to have to ask lots of questions to, because they want to experience lots of stuff. So this child is going to have lots of experiences in their life. We can count on that.
Yes, thank you so much for going through. Thank you so much for going through all the charts. That was fun. I really enjoyed it. I learned a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I loved it.
You shared your family with us. Thank you very much. And I thought that was very educational.
I want to get shirts with my design on it. Jennifer gave me the idea yesterday.
Yes, well, we are definitely going to get shirts with our design on them. And for you guys, Dan held up his shirt. Here's my shirt. If you have not gotten your shirt, click the link down below. That's how we help support this channel. And thank you, Savannah, again for sharing your family with us. Something that y'all said earlier about the school system. I think the more that we do these type of videos and get this information out, eventually we can have schools that will help kids with their designs so that they can start living, authentically according to how they are made, instead of being put in a place where everyone's the same.
That needs to be the way of our new world, Jen.
Well, that's what we are trying to impact, Dan.
Yep.
So, thank you, Savannah, for being a part of that. And for those of you who tuned in, thank you very much. Please make sure you subscribe to the show, and we will see you Wednesday night.
Bam. See y'all later.
Bye. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.